for new ones. Data from the University of Houston says another problem is retaining some of the experienced ones at public schools. ABC 13's Mo Hyder looked into those numbers and has more on why we're seeing an exodus, Mo.
Yeah, hey there, John. Jonathan, Erica. Well, that study says it boils down to two main things. First is the stagnant pay, and in some cases, it's also the increased workload. And this study really shows a decrease when it comes to a specific group of teachers.
Texas is home to some of the largest school districts in the country, but a new study from the University of Houston Education Research Center shows that doesn't mean there are more teachers in the classroom. In fact, the numbers show the state lost more than 5,000 traditional public school teachers as of the 2023 to the 2024 academic year. That's a stat Jackie Anderson, who is a president of the Houston Federation of Teachers, finds discouraging.
It saddens me because I, was a long-term educator. I retired after 33 years in the classroom.
The study from U of H says it's the mid-career teachers the state is losing. The report shows in the 2021 to 2022 school year, a little more than 24% of Texas public school teachers had 6 to 10 years under their belt. That dropped to about 22% as of the 2024 school year. Anderson is concerned for the students' future with years of experience walking out the door.
Definitely going to have a horrible effect on students. Like I said, those are the teachers that are really into the content. They know what they're talking about now. They're comfortable in delivering instruction.
She's also worried about bringing in more qualified instructors, so we looked into the number of teachers for the Houston area that are newly certified. Data obtained by 13 Investigate shows in 2020 there were a little more than 4,000. By 2024, that number dropped to under 3,000. Anderson feels a tougher system will lead to better teachers in the long run.
Anybody can't be a teacher. There are nuances to teaching that everybody does not possess.
And also, Bill, what's passing the state legislature to help boost teacher pay and also tighten requirements when it comes to certification. Back to you guys.
Anybody wearing carpe?
You wear it?
Shut up.
No way.
It's my favorite.
Good day. Hi, guys. This is Ash Todd. I just wanted to kind of jump in there and talk a little bit about a topic that I came across me earlier today. I was looking at a video from a disclosed news channel here in Texas that gave an article about the shortage of certified teachers, and three of the topics that they talked about was how they are noticing that there's a shortage of certified teachers, right? So they dive a little bit into the topic, to make a long story short, about three specific areas of why they think that there has been a decrease in teachers here in the state of Texas. So one of them was pay, the other one was specific groups, quote, that was disclosed but not disclosed in a sort of kind of way. And the third is an increase of uncertified teachers. Now, I have a friend that I just met. He is also, was just ironically talking to me about this about a couple of days ago, of how he moved back to Texas because of the education system, and he was going actually for his certification as a teacher. And we talked a little bit about just the state of schools and where things are going with the, the known or unknown. I rather say known and unknown, because I knew about it as far as the Board of Education and how that's going to affect a lot of the federal funding towards colleges and things of that nature, even statewide for our city and public schools and stuff. But more so, there's so much change in the background regarding the teaching of our children and who's teaching our children, and just a lot of the unspoken nuances and things that are going on in the background in the education sector. I know and have heard through the pipeline with several of my, as I would say, constituents, for lack of a better word. But there is a quiet conversation and a known outlook regarding schools that the teachers are absolutely exhausted. Okay, and I want to touch a little bit on these three specific areas because this is what this news channel pretty much decided to focus on as far as their clip regarding the reduction of teachers in Texas school. So one of them is pay. Now, I will say that pay has always been an issue for teachers. I mean, it's pretty cliche. Everyone knows that teachers do not get paid enough money. However, what I see happening now is there is this underlying corporate communication, right? from, let's say, from the bottom to the top, and it's spoken from the top to the bottom as well. If you know, you know, where, schools tend to think that, there's an open door, a revolving door as far as employment is concerned. They really think that there's some sort of like long list of teachers who are waiting to just run into these schools and teach our children, which is not the case. Especially when it regards to trade schools, specifically, since they take a different accreditation. However, there is just a very, very weird underlying tone between the schools, the states, the Department of Ed, and things of that nature as far as what's going on with our teachers and our pay. But everyone knows that teachers never get paid, regardless if you had your master's degree and all of the certifications that are required for teachers to even walk into a classroom, right? We haven't even talked about the work that these teachers do, the grind, the 12-hour days, and some of them have their own families. So yeah, pay is definitely a consideration that they're not changing that, right? That's been an issue since the 1990s about the lack of pay for our teachers. So I thought that that was a weird topic that they would bring up as a reason to say that the teachers are decreasing. No, it's definitely not that. The second is the specific groups. Now, this article by this undisclosed news station talked about it was targeting specific groups, and that was a very vague, and I don't know who and what these quote unquote specific groups are, yet more than likely they're probably targeting Black people, Black people, Latinas, things of that nature, Latinos, the African American community, and so forth and so on. The article just made no sense whatsoever. These specific groups tend to take up a lot of the employment involving our higher education and things of that nature, especially in inner cities or, lower income demographic areas and so forth. So that was a very weird statement to make about first pay and then specific groups. And then lastly, the third topic that they brought up was an increase in uncertified teachers. Now, this is really interesting because I'm not sure even how this even happens. How does a school just has this influx of teachers who are uncertified when that is an ultimate requirement for any teacher to perform in school or to teach a school? You have to have at minimum at least a master's in some sort of performative track record where your history as a teacher is known, right? So that is a hugely upsetting and very weird dynamic that, this news station would bring up, that one, pay, specific groups, and increase in uncertified teachers. When I add all of these three together, it gives a stench of this being Black teachers who probably were employed at some point in time in the state without their certification, without their degrees. However, the schools needed to have, let's say, their head counts intact. We all know that school is also a business, as much as we hate to admit it. It truly is. And now I'm just curious to understand why they're tracking and keeping an eye out on wanting to increase the number of teachers. And it was just a weird article overall. But nonetheless, the nature of the of me speaking about this is really, is there something going on as far as our education? Is teaching going out? Is teaching a dying breed? Teachers are exhausted, and I don't foresee any conclusion for this since the inclusion and booming of AI.
This is Matriarch Endeavor's YouTube channel. We welcome you. Thank you for watching.